Hi, I'm Ken Goldstein, Professor of Political Science here at UW Madison. Today I'm talking with Chancellor Biddy Martin about the university's proposed new business model called the New Badger Partnership. Chancellor Martin, welcome to Office Hours. Welcome to our new set here on Office Hours as well, a little different from the last time you were here.
It's beautiful. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to talk about the New Badger Partnership, which is a solution. But for solution, what's the problem? So could you outline for us a little bit about what we're trying to solve with the New Badger Partnership? What's the problem that the university is facing, the challenge the university is facing?
I'd be glad to. As you know, nationally, the problem for public research universities is that the business model that supported those universities for decades and made them part of the bright future or anticipated future for the country is broken. And we need to come up with a different business model. The biggest single problem is the failure of the states to be able to keep pace with the costs of higher ed. And in a world in which higher education is increasingly market-driven and the competition for talent is increasingly global, it's really important that we be able to find revenue and use it in ways that keep the public research universities strong. That's what I aim to do.
Tell me a little bit. So our friend Mike Kinetter always talks about market-driven. What exactly do you mean when you say market-driven?
Well, everything about higher education these days is market-driven in the sense of heavily competitive. That is, the competition for faculty, for students, for academic staff is just fiercer than it's ever been. And everything from wages to benefits of various kinds, research costs and expenditures, everything is really driven by the competition globally for the best talent in a knowledge economy, which really requires not only cutting-edge education, but technology-focused research.
That's an important point. So it's competitive not only here within the United States. We're not only competing in the Big Ten, we're not only competing with the Ivy League, but we're competing with other universities around the world as well.
Yes. I'll give you an anecdote. I was just in Asia, and I went to visit Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. And I walked into the room to meet with a group of administrators and some faculty, and it was like being in a Big Ten president's meeting. The provost of Hong Kong University had just come from Michigan. Two of the deans had come from Purdue and Iowa. The head of a new Institute for Advanced Study based on the Princeton model had come from Cornell. So from the administrators to the faculty, the claim we've been making all over the United States that the competition is increasingly global was staring me right in the face.
So the state of Wisconsin obviously faces a serious problem. The country was in economic crisis, still is in economic crisis, and the state of Wisconsin faces a serious budget deficit over the next couple of years.
Right.
How is what we're doing can help the state of Wisconsin both in the short term and the long term in the New Badger Partnership?
That's the opportunity. The opportunity of a major research university to help drive the economy, create jobs, increase revenues, increase the number of young people who graduate. All of that is made possible by a different business model, in my view. One that relies less heavily, because we have to rely less heavily, on taxpayer funding, and more heavily on the revenue that we can generate on our own, and that we could then spend in ways that are more flexible and focused on getting the work we do benefiting the citizens of the state.
And there's some other examples of other states, other major state universities doing this. Could you take us through that a little bit?
Well, there are a number of major research universities, public research universities in the United States that have developed different arrangements with their states. Michigan is always held up as a primary example. By constitution, they are able to operate their university autonomously, though they get state funding. There are a number of other institutions that have also developed different contracts with their states. Virginia would be one. The University of Oregon is in the process of developing a different model. Arizona is working on one, the SUNY system in New York. And in every case, what the universities seek is greater autonomy to operate the institution in the way they need to in this very heavily competitive environment. In the case of the University of Wisconsin, we want that autonomy in order better to serve the state, not simply for the sake of being a great university for its own sake. but for the purpose of being the kind of job creator and economic driver that we know we could be if we could run more efficiently, more nimbly, if we could generate our own revenue without constraints and use that revenue to do what we know we need to do, rather than having some of the regulatory constraints that we feel keep our hands tied behind us.
And I'm not sure a lot of people realize what a big, well, professor friends will get angry if I say that University of Wisconsin is such a big business, but
yes.
you know, how much money we're throwing off, and also what we're throwing off is the correct term in terms of jobs.
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, according to North Star Economics, which updated its economic impact study, the University of Wisconsin-Madison creates, directly and indirectly, over 97,000 jobs. It accounts, its impact on the economy in the state of Wisconsin is over $9 billion. Over the past 8 to 9 years, the University of Wisconsin-Madison has created 9,000 jobs, new jobs, on non-state funding. Our faculty bring in excess of $1 billion in research funding annually from outside the state. So UW-Madison is really one of the state's biggest export businesses. It's one of the few institutions that brings in that much money from outside the state. And all of that is job creating, is economic growth, and we believe we could do even more if we had the flexibility to manage our resources and to generate revenue in the ways we know we could.
What are some of the things that you'd be able to do as Chancellor and some of the folks in your administration could do if you had that added flexibility?
Well, the kinds of flexibility that other major research universities have, public and private, include the ability to purchase, to manage their own construction projects, to propose tuition that's market-based, and to use some of that tuition to provide financial aid so that low and middle income families can afford the education. It includes being able to pay, to use funding of our own for merit-based pay so that we can keep the talent at the university that we so badly need. Again, not just to make the university great for its own sake, but in order to create the knowledge, the discoveries, the technologies that can be spun off and commercialized and ultimately benefit the state as a whole.
I think sometimes people get concerned about salaries and the level of salaries, but as you said, we're competing for faculty with universities all over the country and all over the world. And ironically, that's sort of frozen the last couple of years as some of the big private institutions were hurt severely in the stock market and weren't able to poach University of Wisconsin faculty. But I don't know if there are things that keep you up at night, but that's got to be one of the things that worry you.
Yes.
What happens down the line when those big privates go hunting again? We're going to be in a very competitive environment.
That's right. And actually the poaching has already started again on the part of a number of privates. And they're poaching not only from Wisconsin, but from the California system. And in my view, the deterioration of quality at the great public research universities in the United States is extraordinarily, not just unfortunate, but it constitutes what I would call a crisis. This is where the great majority of young people are educated in our country. It's where most of the research is done. And that's been true for many, many decades. We've got to do everything we can to preserve the quality and access at public research universities.
So Chancellor, there will be a tuition increase, but part of that money in the tuition increase will also go to financial aid to make it possible for people of all sorts of various economic standings to come to the university. Tell me about that.
Well, I think that's absolutely critical. Access and affordability are a high priority, and they have to remain our high priority. And so, yes, we need to make sure that families of low and middle income ranges can continue to afford UW-Madison. And that means raising private money for scholarships. That's our highest fundraising priority. And we're succeeding in getting our donors interested. And we also need to have the right to use some portion of tuition to help those students and families who couldn't otherwise afford the education.
Another difficult question is, if you're in sports or in poker and politics, you sometimes hear the term skin in the game.
Yeah.
And you're asking various folks to have some skin in the game. You're going to ask alumni to be more supportive. You're going to ask the state to be more flexible, and
Yes.
you're also going to ask students and their families to contribute more in terms of rising tuition.
Right.
Never easy to ask
Right.
for. Give me your best argument.
Well, there's an economic argument, of course, and that is that all the most recent studies show that the return on investment of a college degree and a degree at a university of this caliber is rising, so that the gap between high school graduates and university graduates is growing in terms of income, health outcomes, civic engagement. So it makes sense for young people and their families to invest more given the return they're going to get on that investment. That's the economic argument. I think that's true socially, culturally, and in any number of other ways, that what a university degree from an institution of the quality of UW Madison will mean for the rest of one's life warrants more of an investment. Would we ideally want to be asking for more from students and their families? It's a really interesting question, because I agree with you that everyone should have skin in the game. And higher ed has always been financed in a combination of ways: state funding, federal funding, university generating its own funding, students and their families. And really what's happening is a rebalancing where the states in this country are able to do less with taxpayer money for a range of reasons, which you as a political scientist could explain even better than I, but they have historical roots. And as a consequence, we have to ask the university to do more, to operate even more effectively, to rely on its alumni and donors to bring in more private money, and we have to ask families to do more as well.
Thank you so much for joining us
You're
for
welcome.
this special office hours. And there's lots of other information available on the website that surrounds this video that you're watching. So hope you'll please check that out, and you can email your questions to folks at the University of Wisconsin if you have questions, concerns, or want to help out. So thank you very much.